How you been, busy lady?
It's weird to do the podcast when I haven't seen you all day because I feel like we're just catching up on the podcast.
When I was a guest on another podcast, they were like, "Okay, so plug your podcast. What are you guys doing?" And he was on our Nick Schiffer. He was on our podcast as a guest, and he's like, "Why do you guys call it Next Door Neighbors?" And I was like, "Well, it's my wife and I. It's our way of having like talk to our next door neighbors that are not living next door to us, but are people that we'd have them over basically for a conversation, and that's the essence of it." And he's like, "Oh, I thought it was because like it was you and your female neighbor were like sitting down and like it's like, do you know that is a
Just
recipe
a random,
for
you and your random female neighbor just sitting down and talking?
exactly,
Oh my gosh.
and talking to guests and stuff. So basically, I'd have another host." It's two next door neighbors sitting down together. He goes, "Okay, now it makes a lot more sense." I'm like, "Well."
That's hilarious.
So by you
I
just,
wonder if other people think that.
I hope not. I think a lot of people know
Wait,
through social media what our connection is. You should get a microphone closer to you.
I don't want people to hear me eating.
Why are you eating when we're
'Cause
rolling?
I'm so hungry.
Oh yeah. So what are you working on right now? You're doing a staging job? I thought you're done with staging.
I'm not staging.
You're not staging? You're doing
Well, I'm
design?
kind of staging,
Oh, that's design, right?
but it's called an install when it's a design job.
So you're installing.
Mm-hmm. And you're installing too.
I am installing right now. I'm installing
So-
backsplash tile.
It's different because with staging, you put the furniture in. You're still installing
So
it.
your stuff.
Your stuff, and then you have to take it out.
Mhm.
With this design job, we purchased all the furniture back in August. There's still stuff that has not arrived, and it's making me crazy. But when you install, you do all the furnishing and decorating, but it stays there. So like if you have a design client, you would just decorate their house. With this one, it's a model home, 2 of them
For a builder.
for builder, and so they're just gonna stay furnished always.
So what's a model home? Is a model home kind of like here's 3 different variations of a home we make?
Model home is, usually a furnished home that people can see what kind of finishes you can have there, layout, just so they can kind of get a feel for, like, this is what our homes look like.
Is the same thing as a spec home? Or is a spec home completely different? Because I've heard spec home.
Spec home is different. Spec home is a house that was built by the builder as kind of, but like is for sale. Usually model homes are not for sale.
But isn't every home built by the builder for sale?
No, not model units. A lot of times, unless they
No, I mean specs. We're talking specs.
Yeah.
So let's say builder builds 50 houses in a neighborhood and then allocates 5 of those to be a spec home. What's the difference there?
Well, because a lot of times that just means the builder picked everything out themselves and then you buy it. A lot of times with builders, you get to customize light fixtures, hardware. You go through the process with them. And so that's a custom home. If a builder does both, sometimes they'll just make a spec home and like have just somebody buy it as is.
Is a spec home just another example of a model home?
I guess, yeah.
So
it
when the
could be.
builder does the modifications, is it just kind of saying this is what we can offer? I guess I'm still trying to figure out the difference between
Model
a
home
model
is
and a
usually
spec.
furnished. I think that's the difference.
But I feel like the model part is just the next level of spec. You know?
Yeah, it's like a spec home that's been furnished. Yeah, it's exactly it.
They should just keep calling it spec home. But
Yeah.
some
But
spec
I think
homes are
then people are going to
model.
be like, well, why is it furnished? Yeah.
Mm.
The thing is with a spec home, you can buy it right away. A lot of times model homes, they're not for sale because they want people to come and look at that and then decide what they want. It's usually not for sale.
Interesting.
So like a lot of builders have a model home in the neighborhood that they're building in. And then once that neighborhood is all built out, then they sell that model home.
As the very last.
Very last one. Yeah, usually. The only thing with model homes is usually it's like trashed by the end of the...
So that makes a lot more sense. So now why are you having, since you ordered, I mean, we're in 2022 now. We're not at the peak
It's not any better.
Why, what's the issues with the furnishings?
I don't know because I almost feel like, because people are having better luck now buying furniture, but certainly am not, because I even bought some stuff, a bed for our house back in September and it still hasn't arrived. I almost feel like because I bought so many things at once, like a big bulk order.
From the same person, from the same supplier?
From the same company. And there was a few different companies. I almost feel like things got lost because there was just so many items. I bet if it was just like one thing, two things here and there, it probably wouldn't have been such a hassle. But because I bought so many items, like there was supposed to be 2 sofas that came, exact same sofa, because they're going to be across from each other. One came, and obviously like a lot of the stuff came back in January, but it was all in boxes because the homes weren't done yet. So we had to keep everything in a pod. We're waiting, and finally we unpacked it all, and this is where we're noticing things are not like here. And the thing is, it's like, it'd be one thing if like, because I could see when things are delivered on my end through the stores. So like on my West Elm account, I can see what's been delivered when what hasn't. But the problem is it's not accurate. So a lot of this stuff says it's been delivered, but it hasn't. So I'll call the delivery people and be like, hey, this shows that it's been delivered. And they're like, oh, I don't know why it shows that. We actually haven't even received that in our warehouse yet. So it hasn't been delivered. I'm like, what?
How is this happening? How is it?
I
It's
have
like a
no
fake
idea.
delivery?
I think there's just miscommunication. That's all.
With the same company, or is this across a bunch of different companies?
The thing, so mostly this company.
We're talking about West Elm?
Mm-hmm.
Are they a new startup? No, okay.
Yeah, never heard of him. This is the problem. West Elm doesn't use their own delivery service. They hire out a third party locally in all these like cities.
Yeah, because West Elm's all across the nation.
Yeah, because it's across the nation. So they hire out these like moving delivery services. And the problem is there's this huge miscommunication of like where things are in the process of like being delivered. And so West Elm like checks it off. I guess somehow it was communicated that it's been delivered. So my account shows, oh, it's been delivered, but it hasn't. And then I'll call the delivery service and I'll be like, where is it? Oh, we actually haven't even received it yet to our warehouse. So it's still like in transit. And I'm like, what?
It's interesting. So West Elm has its own warehouse where the furniture is, and then it contracts out the delivery part of it, right?
And they have their own warehouse too, where they keep all the furniture before they deliver it.
Which makes sense because there's not, well, I mean, we used to see, this is an older name drop, but like Sears, you'd see a Sears truck driving, or we have, what's that furniture store off of Eagle, the big one?
R.C. Willey?
R.C. Willey, you see R.C. Willey trucks, but these are local state stuff. But
I'm wondering why they just don't get, I guess it would be too much money to like get their own truck and go across.
Correct. But now you also are dealing with West Elm, right? So meaning because it's across the country, you know, there's trucks that you have to provide. So it's another avenue. So it makes more sense for the company to contract out. And but okay, I mean, you go on Wayfair.com and you order a piece of furniture. You don't have a Wayfair truck that shows up and delivers it, but yet you're not having trouble like Wayfair.com.
No.
But it's Amazon that's delivering Wayfair or FedEx or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's like FedEx and stuff that delivers. But even like bigger items, so like even if you order a bed, they find a way to like deliver it to you without all these complications.
I just think there's better systems and processes with Amazon and FedEx and UPS. There's so much they've worked out all the kinks that it's its own well-lubed machine. But now that you'll see often you know, you'll buy something from who knows wherever, and it'll be delivered on like a Meineke truck.
Yeah.
You know, a moving truck.
And then like somebody like figured out a way to, And it's
these two guys that look like they work at a bowling alley, right? Like, and then they just bring the thing in and you go, oh, so did you get contracted out? Like, are you just
They do.
I mean, I know that they're probably looking for delivery people because everything's now online, but you could tell the difference in the quality of people or the quality of organizations of these delivery services. Because if you have some random small delivery service that goes and picks up that contract with that company, then the system processes like, and it's all paperwork. Like, I don't know, it got delivered on my end.
I'm like, how do you lose a sofa? They can't find like the dining chairs that supposedly came to that warehouse. I'm like, how do you lose that stuff? I know it's probably a big warehouse, but it's like, it just boggles my mind. And I'm like, I've been trying to be really nice and like, but I mean, I'm going to have a breaking point soon.
What are you going to do? Are you going to scream?
I'm going to use my stern voice.
You got to do that, girl, which is funny. You're so not that person.
I'm not, but like, I mean, I do. There's a point where I get pretty frustrated.
Of course, especially when you're the middle person between everything.
I know, and then I feel like it's my fault, so I feel like I have to do all this damage control because I'm the one that ordered the stuff.
Right.
But I'm like at this point where there's literally nothing I can do now.
But
I'm
surely
just
the
waiting.
builder knows that.
They know, but it's like, you know, that you
It's
feel like
embarrassing,
you feel like it falls on your shoulders, and it is embarrassing. You're like, I'm so sorry we ordered this such a long time ago. And I mean, luckily everybody knows now, you know, it's been 2 years. The shipping is still a nightmare. And so everybody kind of has that like grace
but
and
everybody
understanding.
still has timelines too.
But people still have, deadlines that they're trying to meet. And we gave ourselves 8 months, and this stuff is still not here.
And you're
That's
not
the
gonna,
problem.
and what you're not gonna do, because it's completely a waste of resources and time, to go, okay, this delivered. I'm gonna go to where it's delivered, because obviously it's being delivered at that location, and cut a box open and be like, yep, that's it.
I know.
And then come back a week later, be like, oh yeah,
Do the
that's
same thing. Yeah,
It
just
makes no sense.
isn't-
And now you have a bunch of stuff that's sitting for 8 months because the project's not due yet, that might get damaged because you're unwrapping it.
And so that's exactly what happened yesterday. There was a damaged piece, and obviously we didn't check it, and it was delivered in January, and now it is April, and we're not going to open every single box just to check if it's damaged. And even if we did, we wouldn't have even seen the damage, because it was like the corner. We'd have to open the whole box and like, you know, inspect it. But it was a dresser that was damaged. And so when I called to like get a replacement, they're like, well, it's been over 30 days. First of all, usually we don't. Oh my
gosh.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? So finally I like was talking to her. I was like, yeah, but you could tell I ordered a lot of items. So like maybe you guys can understand that like I wasn't opening the stuff until just now, and I ordered a lot of stuff from here, so I don't know, maybe that's why they had a little bit of like grace. So she finally got approval from like the manager. Okay, we can replace it for you. What we'll do is order a new one. When that one comes, we'll do a swap. And I'm like, okay, cool, because that way we can keep that one there for now, because it's like you can kind of hide it, but like why would you keep a damaged, you know, dresser? So she looks it up and she's like, oh, actually it's been discontinued. And I'm like, no. So now I don't know what to do.
It's like the perfect storm.
Yeah. So now they're trying to like replace it with another one, but they won't, or they're going to give me like in-store credit to buy another one, but they have to pick it up first before they give you the in-store credit. It's just such a mess.
And there's nothing you can do. Like that's the thing, is like, if you go, okay, team, well, how do we prevent some of this from happening again?
There's no way. Like we did every step, I think, perfectly. It was just so many items. When you're getting so many items delivered to one place and not opening them right away, that's just bound to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like what else could we have done?
And most people don't do that. Most people don't order in such bulk things, right?
It's a very rare.
Right. It has to be
thing.
like a profession-based thing. And how often does that happen? It's very, very rare. And yeah, that's the crummiest thing. It's like you're outside 30 days. Like, yeah, but we were so proactive about it.
I know.
And ordering
like we kept it in a box. We kept it in pods, so like everything was safe, and like.
Is that what they did? The builder got pods? That's nice.
So it was like 2 big pods, and that's where everything was kept. I just can't believe, they'll just lose, and it is. It's that miscommunication between the delivery service and the store, because West Elm could see on their end, we actually sent both of these items out. So like the sofas, for example, I had to call and be like, I only got one sofa, and they're like, okay, let's check. So they can check on their end to see if they actually sent only one sofa out accidentally or 2. And they're like, well, we sent both of them out. So I would call the delivery service and see if they accidentally like delivered one because they didn't see like the quantity, because it's the exact same sofa. And I was like, okay, I'll call them. And so I called them. They're like, oh, it shows we delivered both of them. I'm like, well, you didn't.
That's another part, though. It's like, it's one thing if something is missing, but to have a thing to say it's been delivered, because then how do
that happen?
And you can't. No, but even more than that is like, how do you have even a voice to argue? Where like, yes, fortunately, majority of the strong businesses are like the customer's always right, because there's not a lot of people who are lying, right? You're not gonna like have a TV delivered and then you hide the box and be like, hey, it turns out it never got delivered. So how do you have that voice of the person on the other side be like, hey, listen, my paperwork, my guy said it's delivered. You're telling me it's not delivered. What's telling me you're not lying to me?
I know. And I always feel that way. I'm like, I hope they don't feel like that, because it's not just one item. There's a few items where I'm like, this isn't here. And it makes me like feel weird sometimes, because I'm like, do they feel like I'm just like making it up to get an extra couch? I don't know.
I bet we could squeeze 2 couches.
I bet we can get a third exact same looking couch.
Too many couches. And that's what I really appreciate. What like Amazon will do is and sometimes UPS or whoever else, but not only the tracking part, but and they'll tell you where it's at, the picture, and it's on your driveway. And that's really cool because now at least you have. And I bet you that was.
But that's why they started doing that, is because so many people were like, "Well, I don't have this item." So smart. And
on top of it, it's not only because maybe something got lost or whatever, but you have porch thieves, right? You have package thieves.
Exactly. To be like, well, I didn't get that.
And there's like, well, there's a picture here. Well, then at that point, it's like the company doesn't have to feel like they have to lose money. I'm sorry, it's your territory that it was stolen.
It's like kind of like covering your bases.
Correct. Yeah. It's a liability prevention kind of thing.
Which I'm like, I guess that wouldn't be that hard to do if you're delivering a bunch of, or at least even show the package because it's in a box.
Well, there's simple enough technology of just even scanning, right? So to scan, to be like, if they scan it, because when you do a tracking, you see that it arrived to this facility and it's in transit, whatever. But you don't have to go as far as pictures, even though everybody's got a smartphone. But to have something as simple as like scanned on the front doorstep and be like, well, at this time it's on it. Versus all these delivery drivers they're all delivering.
They just mark it and say, yep.
They got clipboards.
I know.
And who's entering that information?
Yeah, it's just old school, I think.
You got stuttering Stanley, who's at the office. Oh, they're trying to input this paperwork into the computer, and then he, instead of saying deliver, not delivered, he wrote delivered. Yeah.
I just wonder. It makes me wonder what their warehouse looks like inside if they are losing items.
It's a jungle. But also, I will say this: I'm very curious. I'm fascinated by just the postal office, even right. The ability for you to write on like a letter. And then have it sent out and get to the most remote place in the world. Right. It's like,
and the system for it, where they're not just sending one person out for that one letter, they're grouping them together.
Correct.
To send them all in the right places.
And it's even more fascinating when you're not in the major metropolitan area, but you're like, a little cabin in the woods. Somehow you could still get UPS delivered in an envelope. And so that part is fascinating that civilization have created some kind of efficient system that you can go have something delivered to a town of 100 people, and it's wild. Every single day that stuff happens.
That's probably that was something that was organized over such a long period of time and perfected.
Right.
But I'm like, how are these big stores still struggling with this issue?
That's the most weirdest part, because it's one thing if you said, here's this weird Chinese company that sells cheap furniture. I get it.
This is a big,
Yeah, it's a well-known, it's like you buying something from Louis Vuitton, and they're like, sorry, we're a mess with the delivery department. You're like, no.
We delivered, I think.
I paid an arm and a leg for this. You should know how to.
I know. It's just like the level of, I don't know. I was fired up about it, but now I'm like, I don't know.
That's another thing is I
think from now on, I'm like, at least until shipping starts getting better, I'm just, for like clients, I think I'm going to try to buy locally. There's a couple stores here where you can actually buy furniture items and take them with you that day.
Yeah, like, but that includes now you have to go get the truck, get a helper, and
move
her.
But like at this point, I'd rather do that than be like waiting on these items and calling every day, and like the stress of it. Yesterday I was on the phone probably for like an hour and a half, and after I got off the phone, I picked Jack up from school, and I was like, oh my goodness, I am so tired. Like my brain was so tired from just like thinking and like having to talk it all out.
Solving problems.
Yeah. Like I can't imagine the people that do telemarketing or like the phone, that you have to be on the phone all day long. That was exhausting.
Yeah. It's also very frustrating when you're paying for this is going back to the whole Louis Vuitton thing, but when you're paying an arm and a leg for a service.
You also pay delivery. You pay for delivery.
What I mean is, like, anytime there's a service that's not cheap that you're paying for, right? There's one thing if like you order something and it's a poor quality, where like that's why you bought a cheap thing. You get what you pay for, yeah. Or maybe you went, if you want street tacos, you have to go to this food truck. It's an inconvenience thing. Don't get upset. There's a reason why it costs so low. But when you're paying like an arm and a leg for, like, let's say you drop 10 grand on a very nice vacation and you have a horrible service there's nothing more irritating where you're like, I'm paying for the experience and this thing blows right now.
I know.
It's like
why did I pay this much? Yeah, to have this like
We were
not show up or
I
horrible experience.
I remember when we were buying a car for you this last fall, and I walked into the dealership and I was like, hey, I'm looking to buy this car. It's a new car, and it's not a cheap car. And I was like, can you connect me with somebody who knows about it? And they gave me this older guy. He's a nice guy, but I keep asking him questions, but he's like, he's sitting in front of a computer and he's like, well, let's look that up. And then there's another thing I asked, like, hey, I heard they have like magnetic adjusting shocks to it. What's that like? He goes, well, let's look that up. And I'm like, I get it. You're maybe not familiar in this realm of this vehicle, but can you connect me with somebody who is? Because if I'm going to drop that kind of money on that car, I better feel like somebody knows what they're talking about. I can look this up at home. And
not
actually,
just like Googling
that. I actually turned out, because I couldn't even test drive it because they didn't have cars like that because, again, shortage. But turns out I could have just ordered this car online at the dealership, at home, online at the dealership, like do all the specs and read all the things myself.
Right.
It's like, hey, guy.
That's what he was doing.
Hey, like, it's so frustrating. You're like, hey, I'm spending a lot of money, like that I worked hard for, that I'm sacrificing for this thing. Let me have this good experience. So you're ordering a really nice, expensive, couch and table. West Elm is not cheap for this client, and they're like, hey, sorry, it's not, it says delivered, and then sorry, this is
like,
damaged. Well, I can't replace it, and you're like, what am I then paying for?
I know, and the fact that you're paying, it's like, I think $300 for delivery for like your items. That's a lot of money.
Per item? Or
not per item. Like you can group them, but it's like if you're buying even if you're buying just one couch or one thing, it's like $300. So like a lot of times, obviously when I buy stuff, I'll group them together. That way it's just one fee. But it's like, if I'm already paying for that, delivery like service, and it's not like being delivered, or I can't even get a hold of delivery. That's the other thing is this new delivery company, I guess, acquired the old one that used to deliver for West Elm, Pottery Barn, like a few other ones, I think.
So it's a bigger company acquired a small company?
Yeah.
Sorry, my flashlight was turned on my phone for some reason.
Got paint on it too.
That is tile adhesive. Thanks for asking.
Nice. Cool. Looks good.
You like it?
What was I saying? Oh, but like, so they acquired this like other company.
What?
I can't remember what I was saying.
So there's a delivery company that acquired the delivery company
what was I saying before
for
that?
West Elm. And so were you going somewhere along the lines?
Probably. And
No,
I
I
can't
didn't
remember.
finish
It was your fault.
That's funny.
I can't believe I can't remember.
Anytime a company acquires another company, you're just kind of expecting that there's going to be these like growing pains, right? Because they go there, different systems,
but it's like
different
even
operations.
the old company was horrible, and now this new one
Is
is like not any better. So I'm like, ugh, it's a lot. So I don't know what to do.
Kyle, our problems aren't remotely as bad as this. We the only thing we're dealing right now is we finished up a project, a vanity project, and all we're missing is an ad read on it. And we already have the sponsor under contract, but they're supposed to send this thing. I'm not gonna say what it is because
Oh, it's like an item?
It's an item that they're advertising, and I'm waiting for this thing to show up so I could show it and do the ad read on the camera and wrap it up. And it's been a full week and it still hasn't showed up. And their whole thing is like, well, can you publish it between the 15th and the 20th? And I'm like,
like how?
Hey,
yeah.
I was like, it's not here yet. Can you and sometimes with companies like that, they're so good when you can go, can you expedite the shipping? And they'll like next day it, or at least you'll have it in the next 2 days.
Right.
And it's been a solid week already now, and we're just sitting on this video. And now, fortunately, I'm not like in that big of a hurry. But what it's going to end up happening in like in the next 2 weeks, I think we're going to have like 3 videos dropping in the next 2 weeks.
Just all back to back.
And I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, what do you guys want me to do? So it's frustrating. But I mean, we don't deal with anything remotely as big as what you're dealing with.
It's just a lot of phone calls and trying to figure things out, and nobody knows what's going on. And you're like, is this happening to other people? Because I feel like it's just me.
Well, I think what ends up happening is with other people, they go.
It's like one item.
Yeah, one item. Hey, my couch didn't show up. And it's been a week.
Yeah.
Not 8 months.
Yeah. Seriously.
So wait a second. You're sitting. So 8 months ago, you were told that it's been delivered, and so you're like, cool, I'm not even gonna worry
No,
about
8 months ago is when I ordered it.
And then how later did it get delivered?
Almost all the items got delivered at the end of January.
Okay, and that's how many months into after you ordered it?
6.
Oh, whoa! 6 months it took for all these. Oh, well, because there's a shortage and all that
Yeah.
stuff. I gotcha.
6-7 months. Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, it's definitely not the side of the business I want to be part of.
Right.
All right.
I don't know. Yeah. And like, oh, that's what I was gonna say with the delivery companies. Like, I think they figured out that like people are like calling them and wanting to find their items. It must be happening a lot because it is so hard to get a hold of them. Like if you go on their page to like try to call them, there's no like phone number.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime they call me from the warehouse, it's a no caller ID. So I can't even like call back. I'm like, how do I even call you guys to?
Well, yeah, you disconnect the phone if there's too many problems.
Mm-hmm. That's what they did.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I was like, actually had to laugh. I'm like, wow, you guys, this must be happening a lot.
All this, not the smartest, but a lot of companies do that where, well, not a lot, but one comes up to mind is a tiny little company called Facebook, where I had a few videos on Facebook that were like demonetized because of like copyright issues. Like,
Oh yeah.
we have music that, we have licenses to use. We pay a subscription fee for it, and we can use the stuff on it. And every once in a while, their algorithm will go through it and they'll capture something that says, nope, that's a copyright issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's on YouTube side, you can just kind of click resolve. You type in what your thing is. You say that you have the license. You show your license, and then the thing corrects it. It's usually an automated system.
Right.
On Facebook,
There's
on
like no way.
There's no customer service. There's no chat you can press. So you're just kind of have to be like, I guess I have to figure out, re-edit the videos and put different music on it. Like there's no.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, it's in fact I actually have like when you create a lot of content on certain different platforms, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, Pinterest has those people. Rumble has it. They will appoint you what they call like a content manager. So they'll basically that's your contact person to like strategize what works, what doesn't, gives you. Informs you of new features that the platform has for you to like leverage and whatnot to be more efficient. I ended up emailing my person and I was like, hey, can you connect me with somebody? And that guy, of course, is not on that team anymore. So yeah, it's
there's just no way you can't
no
resolve
way.
it.
No,
They don't want you to.
No, there's none of that. And so you kind of have to go, okay, I guess I'm alone here. I have to figure this out.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of companies now do that. Like it's more, I see that too, where it's like, it's like a rabbit hole to find the customer service link on like a store. Have you noticed that? I feel like lately I've been noticing that more because they probably don't want like the phone calls anymore. They're so tired of it.
Well, they're
all getting it.
Well, they also have to have a full-time person to answer those phone calls, and they cost a lot of money. Now, one thing I do appreciate on certain platforms is that little chat button you can click, because that's pretty quick. It's usually super dorky because they'd be like, how can I make your day, and all this.
Or like it's like automated at first until you like figure out your problem, and then you'll have like a person actually like chatting with you.
So far mine's been pretty good in terms of resolutions or getting answers. But what I think is happening, and this is both with your delivery issue and every other fulfillment thing, is I think before the pandemic, that we're now 2 years into it, I think before that, plenty of people bought plenty of stuff online. And even though people lost work, but they also were subsidized with stimulus checks, which is not a lot for people, but still, for some reason, they didn't see in economics, they didn't see a decrease in spending. In fact, more people, talking to your father-in-law, more people started remodeling their houses, contractors are all busy. And so the spending never went down. I think what ends up happening is it kind of did a shift in the way our culture operates, where now we're like, hey, we're not as social anymore. I mean, a decrease in social, the social circles are probably very clear. But instead, they're living more and more like online, which we've always lived a lot online, but now they're
even more so.
They're taking it online. So instead of maybe before they would go to grocery store to get their toothpaste, to now going, because they're so used from the pandemic, they go, well, we're just going to order it on Amazon, which that's what I do.
That's what we all do.
But before it was like, okay, well, I need to step. I remember telling me like, hey, can you snag me some, mouthwash? And you would have to go to a physical store. Remember when the world was black and white like that?
Miss it
You get on the
sometimes.
horse carriage. But and so I think now more and more people are just doing that. And I'm not saying everybody, because there's plenty of people listening. They'll be like, hey, what are you talking about? The stores are still full of people. I think there's overall, you'll see a percentage increase or decrease one way or another. It's just, it happens.
I think
You're not going to notice 15-20%, but 15-20% is a lot when it comes to spread across the board.
trying to, and I think what happened was, it was like the increase in people spending and the decrease in like products coming in time. And so of course you're going to see this like
Yes.
lapse in that, where or like this disconnect where you're like, well, we're not getting our stuff in time, but people are still ordering, if not as much, more than they used to.
Yeah.
So now this is where all that stuff is coming into play, where we're like, where the heck is my furniture?
I have a clothing brand sponsor that we've worked with for a long time, and we were talking about the 2022 contracts, and we had to like renegotiate. This is their proposal, like renegotiate the deal, because what ended up happening is they love the partnership, they love the traffic that they're getting, but they were like, because everybody experienced a shortage in terms of fulfillment across the board, product shortage, it turned into a thing where we're still promoting the product,
But they don't have
but they don't have that product. And so they're like, well, we have to pull back on the promotional, which is a silly thing to say, but also the budgets are a lot lower, because you're spending money on advertising, but you can't fulfill them, so you're losing the business.
Right.
So it's interesting. And it was interesting enough that before the pandemic, I remember specifically a few months, maybe the summer before the pandemic, I was looking into the whole idea of like the Sprinter vans that they convert to traveling, not for myself, but because I like watching those like van life videos.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying how Amazon bought out like I think like 50,000 Sprinter vans because they were anticipating a huge incline of the need of deliveries. So if you wanted to buy a Sprinter van, you have to get behind Amazon, who's their vans have to come out first.
Oh man, that's
so
crazy.
It's almost like part of our evolution, that delivery and living online and fulfillment.
I'm wondering if this is just how it's going to be from now on. Like, we'll just have to wait a lot longer to get our stuff. Like, I don't think it's going to get that much better.
Do you remember when Amazon wholesaling pitch was you get it next day with Prime?
Mm-hmm. You still can some items.
Kyle was telling me this, and this was wild. What did you say, Kyle, about like Amazon tracks your history, and maybe you put something in your cart, but then decide not to, and what they'll do is they will on the back. So let's say you put something in your cart. On the back end, they like code op, like a special ops, have that item delivered to that warehouse, and
just in case.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I'm like browsing history.
Yeah.
What you browse.
Like, they kind of know.
So if you,
and that is why there's so many things you can get next day.
Yes.
That are not that, I wouldn't think are that popular. Like, there's some items where I'm like, a box spring twin, like a box frame, twin size, is can be delivered by this Sunday. Okay, we'll see.
Pretty optimistic. That's
crazy.
It's
kind
wild.
of creepy, but I mean, it makes sense. They're like, well, they're already like looking for it. Might as well keep it there.
I remember watching only a little bit part of the Amazon documentary on Jeff Bezos, but I think this weekend I'm going to watch the whole thing.
Is there one? I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, there's one, and it was interesting because when I started watching the first,
is it on Prime?
I think it's on Netflix. Maybe it's on Prime, but it was interesting. Maybe it's even on YouTube. Who knows? But it was Jeff Bezos basically there. He was explaining how the origin of Amazon started, when it was a bookstore, but the whole strategy was to lose money in the very beginning stages of it, just to run out any other competition, and knowing that the company will be successful on the back end when all the competition is mom and pops and everybody who can't support this, and you almost kind of take that capitalism and monopolize the what's that industry, the consumer industry, where you'd almost put pressure on a brand. Let's say a company wants to sell their belts on Amazon. You put pretty strict pressure on that brand to say, hey, we need guarantees of this, that, and this other thing, and the timelines for us to have those things, and you will only take this kind of cut. So they basically pressure them in a very like fast-paced production, and they run every other competition out. And then they started obviously becoming the go-to supplier for purchases of anything decades later.
It's like so many things you think wouldn't be on Amazon are on Amazon now.
Yeah.
Even like smaller companies are selling through Amazon because it's like that's the first app people go to.
It's why
like I need,
and it's because
some underwear.
I think the success of it is,
I don't know why I said underwear.
well, I think the success of it is, first of all, the ease of purchase.
Yes.
I can't tell you
One click.
I can't tell you how many times I had like wanted to buy a thing from another person who has like a small Etsy account. And as soon as I have to, like, I'm laying on the couch, and as soon as
input your card,
I was like, hey, I guess I'm not buying this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of study of human behavior, it's a very silly thing.
it's so funny. It's so silly, but it's true.
But when you go, I could swipe this, like you go up.
If a page I'm buying from doesn't have
Yeah.
Apple Pay or PayPal,
Yeah. You go
Not
on
mine.
you go on Panasonic, the cameras, you go on their website because you're looking at the brand new Panasonic camera.
yeah,
And then they're like, get your credit card information or check out us guessing. You're like, I'm not buying this, because you can now go on Amazon and be like, oh, it's on Amazon. One swipe,
Easy.
two swipe, three swipe, we're done. And there you go.
yeah. I mean, that brings into like even like PayPal and Apple Pay into play because like if there's a website I'm buying off of and I have to go physically get my card, I'm just gonna go on a different website and try to find something else.
Mm-hmm.
Even though literally it takes 1 minute to find my card, input the information.
Yeah, but then you got to put in like 16 numbers.
My head, carpal tunnel.
I'm running a 5K to raise awareness for carpal tunnel.
But it's true. I think that's where how we've evolved as a society. We're at that point now where we would much rather at one click of a button buy that thing.
And I don't think, because it's wild when you go, we're at this crazy point. But the thing is, I don't even think we're at our final destination.
No, there's more. Yeah, it's going to get easier.
It's, well, not only easier, but we're going to be so more integrated into it, where I remember even in the short, how long ago did Facebook announce Meta? And that Zuckerberg.
It was this year, wasn't it?
It was this year, but it was like short. It was a short period of time. It was like maybe 5 months, 4 months. It can't be too long. I remember Mark Zuckerberg's
wasn't it like the beginning of the year?
So let's say 4 to 5 months. Yeah, probably beginning of the year. And so Meta, they just came out. They just announced it like 4 months ago. And I remember thinking in the back of my mind, I remember, that, Ready Player One. I was like, okay, that makes sense, the foreshadowing. But there's a part of me that I go, this is not going anywhere. Are you kidding me? It's not going to happen. But then you start seeing human behavior.
Oh, yeah.
And the increase of online purchases and the increase in online community and a decrease of, having a person-to-person
it's crazy
integration and the dating apps.
Don't you feel like it's a little bit scary?
No. No. Why would it be scary?
Well, in a sense that we are not like having that face-to-face interaction anymore with people.
Yeah, but I think it's scary
because it reminds
because
me
it's
of that
different.
movie WALL-E. Do you remember where like everybody's just sitting in their chairs and they're all like overweight and huge because they're not moving. They're on these like, that's how they walk. They don't even walk. They sit in these like chairs, and it takes them from place to place. They communicate only through like technology. And I'm like, I don't want to get to a point where I'm not like going out for like out with my girlfriends and just like going to get happy hour or something and having that like face-to-face interaction. I don't want to get to a point where it's just all online.
Well, yeah, but you're only saying that is because you've experienced the other, right? You've experienced a time of going to place with somebody and having that person-to-person connection, touch, and all that stuff.
With our kids,
But
it's going to be different.
It's going to be different. You have kids who are born, who are like 4 years old, and who know nothing but masks, right?
True.
Who get panic attack because you're not wearing a mask, and ever since they could kind of understand things, they've only knew masks. I think, and then what happened 200 years ago, right? About cars. Well, there's going to be a time that we're not going to be on horseback. Phew, we don't want anything to do with this petroleum-based product.
True.
I think humans evolve, but I think just like history has always proven, the strong will always survive, and the strong are the ones who go, oh, that food is convenient. I'm going to go eat that convenient food, which is, let's say junk food, right?
Right.
and become overweight and then have a plethora of health issues, or I could be in a chat room in virtual reality with so and so and so and so. I don't have to go meet a girl. Cool, I'm gonna do it. But then you have the strong. Those are the weak. Then you have the strong. The strong go, you know what's healthy for me? Doing something difficult. I'm gonna work out. You know what's good for me? Eating something that makes me feel better. I'm gonna eat better. Do you know what's good for me? Is having a good laugh with a friend. That's what I.
But the problem is we're seeing less and less of those strong people.
Yeah. Then the weak people die off.
Yeah.
That's
There's
part
gonna
of
be a very like low population.
It's part of human evolution.
Right.
The survival of the fittest has been around since the beginning of time. We see the animal kingdom, we see the human kingdom. It's just part of it. And I have no fears about it because I know the things that are important to me in terms of being strong about things.
Right.
To me, it's important my family connections are more important than, let's say, other things. So therefore, I invest in those things. Other families might not. Other families might think other things are more important than those priorities of a strong family.
Right.
So the strong survive, and that's all it is.
I don't know. It's just crazy to me to like see, because we've lived in both, like being 90s kids, we've lived through that, like no internet, nothing, and then having this huge just like boost in like technology. So I think maybe that's why it seems scary to me, is because we're that generation that's like divided kind of in terms of.
But every generation was divided.
Seems like that, yeah.
Every generation.
Or something was like.
How many parents do you know? Everybody's parents at one point said, every generation's parents has always said, "Well, in our time, that was the best time."
That's true.
And in our time, that was the best time because we didn't do this. And I think it's just like if you can adapt while retaining certain things that you know are just good for you and not bad for you. Value is very
Volume.
important. I have no fears. I first had fears, but then I realized that just because something is different doesn't mean it's something that should be scary.
Right.
The same way as the way our kids will live online, it's our job to not just discourage them from it because it's going to
happen anyway.
It's going to be part of their life.
I think that's what's kind of hard for me, is like to accept that it's going to happen anyway. Just like lead them along where they're not consumed by it, and
not consumed, not controlled. Understand how to be a strong survivor in the midst of all that stuff. So not being the sheep, but kind of understanding and being vigilant and aware things that are destructive and things that are not.
Yes, absolutely.
Just because something is good, it doesn't mean it could be good for you. And too much of a Too much of a good thing
is a bad thing.
Could be a bad thing. And so internet, it's a good thing, but too much of internet could be a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's how I feel. So I'm starting to I think figure that out inside myself, because I always felt like this, like technology's taking over. It's like scary. I don't want my kids to watch anything, but it's like you do, because they're going to be consumed, or they're going to get to that point anyway. Technology is part of their lives now. It's, going to be part of their lives. From the time they were babies, it's always been around. I mean, this much, what we're going through right now. So when we were little, it was like whatever's on TV is what you watch. You watch the commercials. And now they're like, Skip, Mom, what is this? A commercial?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
They have it so good. It's so easy.
Yeah. No, listen, man, I think it's cool. I think it's
I
really
remember
cool.
sitting through, like, what is it, 2 minutes of commercials?
I remember, being homesick on a school day, and you're watching Matlock, Price is Right.
Because it's the only thing that's on, yep.
And then you're watching those.
That's
what I call music CD commercial advertisement.
Yeah. Oh, and the ShamWow.
The ShamWow, yep. Happy Days.
The nonstick pan, green pan. Yeah. There's so many good ones.
But then that time sucked.
I know, but we didn't know any better. That's the thing.
Right.
That's all that's all we knew. And so I think for our kids, this is all they know, and we can't try to keep them from, what's going on right now, the technology and the things that are evolving with it.
I just think you just got to teach them how to.
I think I just get scared because I see all these social media, what's the word I'm looking for? Like people having these conversations on social media about how bad some of these video games are for your kids.
Are they psychiatrists or psychologists?
No, it's just moms going.
Right. So then what are they?
Don't let your kids play Roblox because this and this and this.
Have
and
they
this.
seen studies to show an effect of
No,
Roblox on a child?
Their whole thing is, which I understand this, I just don't know. I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, there's so many different ways you can approach this, but Roblox was a big one. There was a mom that like posted this video on Instagram, and I mean, it's got millions and millions of views. Her whole thing, I haven't seen all of it, but her whole thing was like, be careful because on Roblox you can, which a lot of video games, you can talk to people through
chatting,
the game.
Yeah, that's a different conversation.
Which is like, just be aware of, like,
right.
Don't allow your kids to do that. But anyway, she was talking about how there's like predators on there who will actually ask their kids, like, hey, what's your name? Where do you live? Like their addresses, trying to like find them. And that was kind of like scary for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is real. But we've also had conversations with our kids about those things. And
that's strengthening the your child to be able to take on the world that's coming.
Because you can't protect them. Like, I think the best thing you can do is give them the tools to be like, oh, this is bad. Because like, if they're not aware that there are like bad people in the world, one person's going to come up to them and offer them candy and they're going to go with them. It's like the same thing as telling them, hey, don't get in a freaking van with a stranger, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the same thing with technology. I think talking about it and saying, like, first of all, we don't let our kids talk to anybody unless they know them, right? That's our rule.
You looked at me as if we'd never agreed on
that.
Yeah. We're on the same page, right?
Wait a second. Did you tell them that? Yeah. No. So it's like they're not allowed to even talk on their like headset unless it's a person they're related to or a friend that we've like approved. And the thing is, we trust them. So we know, like, when they're talking, there's been a couple times where Jack,
they've been caught too.
They've been caught
because I get notified via email if
and
you
then
added
they're
somebody
done.
to their.
And that's a beautiful thing is you can have all these parental controls where you are monitoring them. Because if you just completely shut them down, they're gonna find a way. Yeah. They're gonna rebel. They're gonna find a way to like work around your rules, and then it's gonna be like even worse for us as parents. So it's the
argument that I have, and I think what our parents have always tried to like bring, convince people is that technology will make you dumber. And I think that's false. Technology won't make you dumber. In fact, I remember Jordan Peterson was having this great point. He's like, if you turn on cartoons for a child, a small, like, a 2-year-old, 1 to 2-year-old, that they're going to grow up to be dumb. Well, no, what they have studies and they show that that's not the case. What will happen is when that child has a lack of attention at such a young age, and they're just drawn to this thing, then that might be a disconnect in their development.
Yeah.
So by you leaving a kid in the crib and just turning on cartoons, yes, that will do more damage.
That's more damage.
But if you're interacting with them and they're getting that their neurons are firing through communication as their brain is trying to figure out every other word that you're saying in order to understand its meaning, that's a different conversation. Absolutely. You neglect the child, then yes, their ability to thrive is going to be
It's interesting.
decreased.
I'd never thought about that way, but it's right. Because it's like with Harper, we turn on Coco Melon because that's always the number one show on Netflix on any account.
It's my favorite show. Yeah,
it's wonderful. But it's like with her, she's not just sitting there glued to the TV. She walks around. She like she's like almost interacting, but like. Because it's all just songs. It's almost like the songs are on for her and she likes that. Yeah. But she'll leave the room and come like find me if I'm like doing something and like then go back to it. So it's like not, I guess it's like if they're glued to it and just sitting there and being, neglected, that's a different story. Yeah.
Their brains need to be having receptors fired off as opposed to kind of being in a stagnant mode and just staring at something almost as if you're staring at the window. Your brain has to be able to send information and receive information and process that information. Yeah. And
I guess with kids,
there's adults who have that, where they're, they watch dumb stuff and they don't challenge themselves with anything else. So therefore you can't have an intelligent conversation.
Well, and I think that's where like the rules come into play. Like for our kids, we have rules because we have to, like they're kids. If we let them watch and play whatever they wanted, they would not leave their rooms because they would be consumed by whatever they're watching or playing. But I think as kids their age, we set these rules and boundaries, and I think that's been working really well for
Yeah.
for them and for us.
Yep. They're great
Yeah.
kids.
So I don't know. Yeah. But that's just, you got to adapt.
Well, anyways, and there's going to be, I'm sure, an asteroid that hits the Earth. So, well, you know,
Soon.
there's always that.
There's always that. So what's the
Yeah.
point? Might
Yeah.
as well watch anything you want to watch. And
So, yeah, have that drink in the middle of the day.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
That's what that is?
Yeah.
You're
Just a
boozing?
cocktail.
You're boozing?
It was a rough day.
This girl, Kyle. Anywho, this has been fun. I actually like this conversation. It was
Yeah.
nice.
It was a lot. We'll call it customer service.
I actually stopped putting titles on. I just put episodes.
Oh, that's good too. That way people can, it's kind of a mystery.
Get caught into
Yeah.
something. Boom. You thought you could talk design, and we're talking about Epstein's Island.
Yeah.
My favorite.
I
Folks,
love it.
Thanks for listening. This has been fun. Please review it on any platform you're listening to. It really helps with the algorithm to push it. And more importantly, go check out the YouTube channel. We have clips and all that fun
Yeah.
stuff there.
You can watch us.
Watch us there.
Watch us talking.
All right. Toodles, folks. Bye.
Toodles?